Join me in the blanket fort as we venture into the realm of the unknown. This is Painted Haint.
Welcome to the Painted Haint Summer Series. Today we're going to be traveling up to Maine to talk about Seguin Lighthouse. But first, I gotta ask, this is just me. I don't know if you feel the same, but what is it about lighthouses that are they're romantic and they're sometimes very creepy? I don't know if it's the isolation for some of them, the stories that may be tied to them, I don't know what it is, but I have always been fascinated by these structures. And my plan actually is to go and visit every lighthouse in the States that, you can get to. But this one, Seguin, is one that kind of lives just in my little file in my brain of crazy, scary stories. So it's also really funny because it's in Maine, and we all know Stephen King is from Maine, and I feel like this is something that he would have written or perhaps been inspired by. But man, this story it's pretty gruesome. So if you don't want to hear it, then you might want to clear out. So here we go. So there was this couple, we'll call them Mary and Tim. So Mary and Tim were newlyweds, and Tim, who had been a lighthouse keeper, just so happened to have gotten a new job as a lighthouse keeper at Seguin Light. Now, Mary, knowing this lighthouse is very isolated on a small island, is quite concerned about being off and away from family and, ultimately, civilization. So to ease the worry and concern and boredom, Tim buys Mary a nice little piano with one piece of sheet music. Now, Mary is excited, but she's not someone that can play a song or a piece off the top of her head, but nonetheless, she can play. So she's happy, and she begins playing what's on the sheet music. And at first, she plays maybe once a day, trying to get the feel of the music. And then it's twice a day. Then it's a third day. Then it's a fourth day, and so on and so on. So initially, Tim is happy to hear, his wife is playing this music. He's glad she's enjoying the music. She's got something to do on the island while he works. But, she starts to kind of play erratically, and she's becoming seemingly obsessed with this particular piece of sheet music. And it's to the point where Tim is getting annoyed because Tim has nowhere to go. He can't just go out, go hang out with his buddies. He can't go for a walk, down the street because they're on this tiny island. And he begins to grow tired of her obsessive playing. So he asks her to stop, give it a break, maybe we can wait on some new sheet music, let's, kind of let it go or try to write your own music. Well, she doesn't listen. I'm thinking it's because she can't. So she's just I'm just going to keep playing. It's almost like she's tied to this piece of music. So Tim can't take it anymore at this point. He is at his wit's end. You got to think about it. He's working all day. He's going up to the light to clean it and, do things around the lighthouse. And now he's got to hear this music. It's like basically the music is everywhere he is, and it's driving him insane, literally. So in a fit of rage and perhaps insanity, he takes an axe to the instrument, so the piano, and then his wife. And then he's there's silence, and he's happy. But that happiness begins to fade as he realizes, oh shit, I've killed my wife. And so he ends up killing himself. Now, that in the Stephen King story, I don't know what is. I'm really surprised he has not, written. I'm pretty sure he's written something. Well, The Shining is close to it, but yeah, there are actually other ghosts that are related to Seguin Lighthouse, but I wanted to focus on this one because it is so terrifying. And real talk, I can see this happening. And what's even creepier is that sailors report hearing piano music drifting on the wind as they're passing the lighthouse. And at first they're like, maybe it's something else, but then they're like, no, that's piano music. And it's said to be the murdered lighthouse keeper's wife. Three sisters by the names of Mary Adelaide, Eliza, and Carrie Petit. They were from Maine and had just moved down to Florida with their mother and father, was supervising the construction of St. Augustine Light Station, so the lighthouse we basically see today. Now, there wasn't much to do in 1870s Florida, I'm assuming, for these three girls, so the girls would get creative. Basically, the girls would see the construction site of the lighthouse as a playground, and their favorite play area was a railway cart and little railway, whose original purpose was to move supplies from ships docked out in the water for the lighthouse. So the Petit girls would ride the cart down to the water for fun. So this was their thing. They would get in the cart, ride down the hill, and they would be stopped by basically a piece of wooden board, which would prevent them from going into the water. However, their fun would come to a tragic end on July 10th, and it's kind of creepy because we're coming up on the anniversary of this happening. So July 10th, 1873. So that day, the three sisters and an African American girl whose name we don't know, we just know that she was 10 years old and may have been a daughter of one of the workers, were riding in the cart as usual. So they were zooming down, and then they roll back up, and then zoom down. But on this day, the wooden board was not in place, so it had been removed at some point, and the cart would unfortunately flip into the water, trapping the girls. Three of the girls would drown and pass away, even though people did try to rescue them, but the youngest petite girl, Carrie, was the only survivor. And so I must ask, after these two stories I've told you, you tell me if these two lighthouses have some ghost stories. It's a rhetorical answer, obviously, but yeah, tell me if it's on it. I want to know, because I usually don't ask this. Does anybody have any personal stories from either Seguin or St. Augustine? I think St. Augustine is a little more accessible than Seguin. So if you have any cool ghost stories, please drop them in the comments. I have been to St. Augustine Lighthouse, and I didn't get a vibe there. But I wasn't creeped out, but I've heard stories about people seeing the little girls either playing or they are standing, they're just hanging out in the house that they would have lived in and grown up in. But this is the end of the episode. Thank you for listening, and I will have more episodes out. Please like and subscribe, and share comment if you want to. So thank you for listening. Bye.